A couple of issues arise when choosing the best sports cars of the 1980s. The main one is what some people consider a sports car, others think of as a muscle car, while others consider it a supercar. So, before getting into the list, some clarification must be brought up. For this piece, a sports car is a car that has been designed and produced to perform on street tracks or roads that have curves and turns, not straight tracks that demand all-out power and torque. Sports cars also do not include supercars such as Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Below, you will find true sports cars designed for those who love to get out on the roads, open their vehicles up, and let the roads lead them to whatever destination they have in mind. You know exactly what it meant. Otherwise, you would not be here reading about the best sports cars on the market during the 1980s. Sports cars are still a blast to drive today and make some great project cars if you are into street racing or drifting. Classic muscle cars are hard to come by these days, and when they are, not many are left in the condition they were in when purchased. Because of that, most of the information in this piece is written from past experiences, research from current owners that go to car shows, and even a few off-the-grid sites that allow private owners to make posts. So, enjoy and learn what you can. TED 1980 Honda CRX. The Honda CRX, or the Honda Civic Renaissance Experimental, is a compact front-wheel drive sports car known for its nimble handling and quick acceleration. The Japanese-made vehicle was built from 1983 to 1991, when it was retired and replaced by the Honda del La Sol. The best thing about the Honda CRX is that it is affordable for anyone to get into a great sports car. The 1985 Honda CRX SI was a diamond among the gems, sporting a fuel-injected 1.5-liter engine that pushes out 91 horses, which is not a lot until you remember that the whole car only weighs in at 1,819 pounds. 0 to 60 acceleration is in just over 9 seconds, which, combined with the sport suspension, makes for one heck of a ride on a road full of curves. 1989. Toyota Supra Mk3. The Toyota Supra, now called the GR Supra, is still being marketed as a sleek, aggressive sports car designed by Gazoo Racing, GR. In 1989, it was still in the third generation, right when the Supra was finally able to cut all ties with the Celica and become its own sports model line. The base-level 1989 Toyota Supra came with an inline 3.0-liter six-cylinder, but the real fun begins when the car was upgraded to the turbocharged 3.0-liter. The upgrade brought the horsepower up from 200 horsepower to 235, and the torque went all the way up to 254 pound-feet from 196. A 0 to 60 sprint only takes this car about 5.5 seconds, which is close to numbers that the V8-powered Corvette was putting up in 89. 1986, Porsche 911 Turbo. The Porsche 911 is one of the most premier sports cars on the planet. It is a rear-engined, German-made car in production since 1964. Throughout the years, the 911 has been branded as one of the most successful competition cars of all time, winning endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the World Championship for Makes from 1976 through 1979. Throughout the 80s, the Porsche 911 did not change very much. In fact, until the company's executives realized how important the American market was for sales, it was unsure whether the Northwestern markets would even see another great 911. The 911 that took the hearts of Americans was the mighty Porsche 911 Turbo. Under the hood was the familiar 3.3-liter. But when the turbo is added into the mix, the 300 horsepower could push the car from 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. 1989. BMW Z1. The BMW Z1 is a unique model in many ways, but the most obvious is the doors. Both doors are designed to slide down on an electric track to disappear into the bottom door sill. Another new feature of the 1989 BMW Z1 was the plastic body panels, and it was also one of the first BMWs to use multi-link rear suspension. All that in a concept car that turned into a limited production number hit. If you have never heard of the 1989 BMW Z1 sports car, do not feel too bad because you are not alone. It was actually a concept car that was only produced in very small numbers, so if you get a hold of one of these cars, hang on to it because it was one of the best performance cars of the era. It had the same engine as the other BMW offerings of the 80s, the 2.5-liter inline six-cylinder that produced 168 horsepower. The coolest part of the car is the rear diffuser designed into the back end of the vehicle, using the muffler and the undercarriage of the Z1. 6. 1985. Mazda RX-7. Mazda had big plans for the rotary engine, but it never did seem to get off the ground. The RX-7 was produced through 3 generations before the nameplate was finally hung up in 2002. But if you are planning to find a newer version, keep in mind that the ones made after 1995 are banned in the US because of the left-hand drive position. No list of the best sports cars in the 80s would be accurate without including the vehicle powered by a rotary engine. The Mazda RX-7 was a unique car that may have been a little strange to some performance buffs, but to others, it was a one-of-a-kind cornering machine that gave them the thrill of a lifetime. The rotary-designed engine was rated at 100 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and could accelerate from 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds. 5. Toyota MR2. The mid-engined 1985 Toyota MR2 is another Japanese-engineered two-seat sports car designed for economical fun. The Toyota midship runabout two-seater, MR2, was marketed globally from 1984 to 2007 when it was discontinued due to a lack of sales. The MR2 turned out to be the first Japanese mid-engined, rear-driven sports coupe on the market. The 1985 Motor Trend Import Car of the Year, and one of the cars on the first top 10 list created by Car and Driver, was the Toyota MR2. It is a mid-engined, two-seat sports car designed with a 16-cam, four-cylinder engine paired with the perfect 5-speed gearbox, giving it 112 horsepower. The top speed is around 120 miles per hour, so it can easily sprint through the curves of your favorite relaxing side roads. 4. 1989. Nissan Skyline GT-R. The Nissan Skyline hung up its nameplate for over a decade, from 1973 until 1989, when the company once again revived the sports car to win some races. And win some races it did. The car was so dominant on the racetrack that it received the nickname Godzilla, which has stuck through the ages to this day. The base-level 1989 Nissan Skyline might not look like much of a sports car. If you get your hands on one with a small 1.8-liter, or even the version with the diesel under the hood, you have a great car, but not one meant for performance. The 1989 Nissan Skyline GT-R or the Skyline GT-SR were built to race, were produced in limited numbers, enough to allow Nissan to race on the track, and are more than worth the effort to locate. 3. 1984. Chevrolet Corvette. Since 1953, the North American marketplace has been graced by the likes of the Chevrolet Corvette. Today, things are a lot different than they were back then, even back in 1984 when the fourth generation, the Corvette C4, was just getting off the ground. But in the 80s, a sports car was all about luxury and performance, and the Corvette is the master of both. Not much can be said about the Chevrolet Corvette that you do not already know, But what is important is that in the 80s, and even today, the Vet is the American sports car. It has been dubbed with that name for more years than most people can remember. Even though it is officially a sports car, it can also be classified as a muscle car because it could go toe-to-toe on a quarter-mile track with most of the big displacement straight-track monsters. Under the hood of the 84 was the venerable 350 V8 that could push out 205 horses and up to 290 pound-feet of torque. 1982. Datsun 280ZX, the 1982 Datsun 280ZX was designed to be a sports car, and it is truly a great sports car, but that was not the original thought behind the vehicle. When the Nissan brand began to take over the 280Z nameplate in the 80s, the first thing that they wanted to do to the Z car was to turn it into a sports car that was comfortable to ride in, which is why you can find comfort inside. The little Corvette, as many people call the Datsun Nissan 280ZX, is a zippy little sports car weighing just under 3,000 pounds. Under the long, sloping hood, a 2.8-liter that pushes out an average of 145 bhp and 156 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM can be found. If you opted for the turbocharged version, those numbers would increase to 180 bhp and 202 pound-feet at 2,200 RPM. Either way, you have plenty of get up and go when combined with the 5-speed manual. A 3-speed automatic was an option. For 1984, Nissan Pulsar NX. The Nissan Pulsar might not be much to look at, but take your eyes off the base model and look at the Nissan Pulsar NX. It is the sports car with T-tops that was introduced to the market to compete head-to-head with the Mazda Miata MX-5 and the Toyota MR2. It was considered by many to be one of the best-handling front-wheel drive sports cars of the time. If you liked watching television in the 80s, at least once, you had the pleasure of watching the Japanese advertisement for the Nissan Pulsar NX. According to it, the car had so much power that it would literally blow the hats off the scientists. Now, the Pulsar in 1984 only had 113 horsepower coming from the 1.6-liter inline four-cylinder, so even though it could accelerate from 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds, it did not produce enough wind blow-off to scatter the hats off the heads of anyone watching from afar. Love the thrill of 80s sports cars? Join us as we explore the sleek designs, high performance, and adrenaline-packed history of these iconic machines. From turbocharged classics to legendary track beasts, this is the ultimate destination for 80s car enthusiasts. Don't miss out on exclusive videos and rare finds. Hit subscribe now and be part of our fast-paced journey into the golden era of sports cars. Let me know if you'd like to adjust the tone.